artifacts and satellites. And because we don't want to do without the story, we're going to do just that. In the last few months, CIA flights illegally transporting prisoners across Europe, Northern Africa, and Afghanistan have made the headlines. And it wasn't just rumors. Little by little, more and more evidence has shown up. Just recently, at its tap station Onyx, which some specialists associate with the Echelon system, the Swiss Secret Service intercepted a fax from the Egyptian Foreign Ministry sent to the Egyptian Embassy in London. In the fax, the Foreign Ministry clearly states its knowledge of CIA flights and prisoner transportation activities. How the top-secret fax became public has still not been cleared up. Not only the European intelligence services took notice of the secret flights, but also many airplane spotters and radio hobbyists observed many of them as well. The first group consists of people who stand at airports and register the movement of every plane, often taking pictures of the planes for their collection. The second group is generally very well equipped with technical reception equipment. They have an antenna for picking up flight radio transmissions and an appropriate receiver at very minimum. With this equipment, one can usually listen to any flight movement within a radius of 600 kilometers. The committed hobbyist has it even easier if he has access to appropriate software and more hardware. Free ACARS programs from the Internet, ACARS stands for Aircraft Communication Addressing Report System, make it possible to read messages that are sent automatically from almost all civilian airplanes in the VHF range. Let's take a look at one such ACARS message. This is a good example of a position report during a flight. The flight United 970 is at 39.09.2 north and 76.13.6 west and passed the waypoint Swan at 2155.16 UTC at the same position at the flight level 230, which corresponds to 23,000 feet, and that the aircraft will reach the next waypoint Golda at 2156.24. The outside temperature is negative 21 degrees Celsius and the wind force is 282-14. That's quite a large amount of information, and since the CIA flights are disguised as civilian planes, they of course emit the same information as civilian planes. Using this information, we can establish where a plane is currently located, but we cannot follow its path. This can, however, be accomplished with radar installation. Due to financial, legal, and health reasons, purchasing and using radar installation is out of the question. Fortunately, the majority of civilian airplanes constantly transmit data, giving their position, altitude, identification, etc. over a S/ADS transponder at 1090 MHz. Until now, the reconstruction of this data into a comprehensible form was the only problem for the outsider. But these days are over. The British company Connectic Avionic launched a small black box with the model designation SBS-1. Hidden inside of this black box are a receiver for 1090 MHz and a decoder. With the SBS-1, it is now possible to display all air traffic within a radius of approximately 600 nautical miles, depending on the location of the antenna, on the screen of a computer as a virtual radar. Before we further describe the features of the SBS-1, let's look a little closer at the equipment, accessories, and installation. Along with the receiver decoder unit, the SBS-1 comes with a power supply for English and Continental 220-volt plugs, a USB cable, the installation software in which the operating instructions are found, and a small emergency antenna. Let's start with the antenna. The emergency antenna that comes with the package is hardly suitable for stationary operation. The 3-meter-long cable isn't sufficient to reach outside. It is, however, ideal for mobile use since it is equipped with a magnet foot. For stationary operation, the diamond antenna D707 with a built-in amplifier is appropriate. Despite being a broadband antenna, it delivers excellent reception results at 1090 MHz when put up in open space. The German importer Vimo also offers an antenna that is set to this frequency range. The amplifier of the D707 antenna used in the test is regulated by a small box that is installed right before the antenna input of the SBS-1. If the antenna is assembled and secured in open space, the drivers can now be installed. Afterward, the PC can be connected to SBS-1, and finally we can connect the equipment to the network. After entering our exact position, the SBS-1 now knows where we're at. Entering this data must be done precisely. Therefore, you are given the possibility to enter the data with up to 3 positions after the decimal point. Google World helps you tremendously to find the position of your house. Simply zoom in to your own street and place your cursor on your house. When doing so, the exact position of your house will appear on the edge of the screen. Now we can see aircraft movement around our location on the virtual radar screen. According to our position and the strength of the reception of our antenna, the range of surveillance will be marked with rings. With these rings, we can determine the diameter of the area in sizes of 5, 10, 25, 50, 100, 250, 500, 1,000, or 2,000 nautical miles. The aircrafts are shown on the radar screen with their fundamental information, such as their call sign, registration, altitude, direction, and speed. The color of the character shows us if the aircraft is flying at a consistent altitude, landing, or has just taken off. On the right side of the screen, there is a more detailed list of flight data. To quickly view the data, we can extend the list. Clicking on the flag or the aircraft on the radar screen provides us with more precise data. For those who would like an overview of the altitudes of individual planes, you can open a display for this information. If there are any interesting aircraft movements, they will also be recorded for later analysis. For those using SBS-1 in Germany, there's one small problem. There's unfortunately no list of the so-called waypoints, a representation of all airports and radio beacons and coastlines. One can, however, if he is willing to put the effort into it, put together such a list from files out of the internet. It's quite amusing to see so many aircrafts in movement, but how does the professional fish out the objects that are worthy of observation? Let's use the example of the illegal CIA flights. All of these aircrafts had a civilian U.S. registration. There's a good reason for this, since the label Air CIA would obviously be too conspicuous. In the catchment area of an international airport, American airplanes are not exactly a rarity, and the observer has to learn to separate the wheat from the chaff. He'll first try clicking on the observed aircraft to find out more about it. In the infographic, there is typically not all that much to be found, unless the aircraft was already conspicuous and the observer had entered data at that time. In this way, we can find out immediately if the aircraft was already registered by SBS-1 and under which flight number it was registered at the time. In 90% of all cases, this data reports the movement of a normally scheduled flight, e.g., the flight number XX50 for the outward flight and XX51 for the return flight. Aircrafts that do not fit this standard pattern will have to undergo a more precise inspection. First of all, taking effect immediately, the flight movement will be recorded, and in addition, the export will be able to listen to the aircraft radio transmissions. The next step is to determine who the owner of the aircraft is. This step should only take a few seconds, as the data of all U.S. aircrafts can be found under www.registry.faa.gov. The CIA likes to make use of private companies or establishes such entities itself in order to have aircrafts for secret missions. Let's use the example of the Boeing 737-700 with the serial number 33010. The aircraft was built in 2001 and was in flight under the registration number N313P as a transport aircraft for the U.S. company Premier Execute Transport Services. On the 3rd of December 2004, the Spanish Civil Guard noticed the aircraft on the Palma Mallorca airfield. It was labeled as neutral without a firm label and had people on board who were provided with diplomat passes. One couldn't see the hidden prisoners in the aircraft. The secret act became known, and the Boeing 737 quickly changed owners to the company Keeler and Tate Management LLC from Reno, Nevada. This plane is probably still being used by the old employer, the CIA, with the new registration number N4476S. Alongside the N4476S, plane spotters and amateurs using the SBS-1 box are keeping an eye out for 32 other CIA aircrafts. The registrations are known to the European authorities, some amateurs, and the editorial staff. Now back to the SBS-1 box. The activities and expertise of the owners of this box who have joined together on a forum in the internet are astonishing. But the manufacturer isn't exactly idle these days either, even when it isn't exactly successful looking beyond the boundaries of the UK. Several features are simply missing that must be tailored to the mainland Europeans. However, one thing that can be praised is the regular updates.